Hey everyone, I'm Londell Sheehan, and today I'll be walking you through my UX case study for a project I created called Bento. Bento is a mindful meal planning app that helps people organize their meals visually, kind of like building your lunch in a bento box. It's designed for people who want to eat better and feel more in control of their food choices, but without the stress of calorie counting or complicated tracking. The idea came from a personal place. I was trying to get into meal prep myself, and I realized that most apps felt too clinical or number heavy. I wanted to design something that felt calm, creative, and even fun to use. In this presentation, I'll share a bit about the research that inspired the concept, how I turned those insights into design ideas, and how I iterated on the experience to make it both functional and emotionally satisfying. Before I jump into the design, I want to talk more about why I created Bento. For me, meal planning has always felt kind of overwhelming. There are just so many decisions, like what to cook, how to prep, how to make it healthy, and most apps out there just make it worse. They're either super strict, focused on fitness tracking, or full of complicated steps that make people give up before they even start. I wanted to design something that felt more down to earth, something for regular people who just want to eat better without stressing out about it. With Bento, my goal was to design a tool that actually fits into your life and helps you stay consistent, save time, and enjoy the process instead of dreading it. So this is Paul, my main user persona. He's a 37-year-old corporate lawyer living in San Francisco. His schedule is packed, and even though he wants to eat healthy, he doesn't have the time or energy to plan and prep meals every week. What stood out to me about Paul is that he wants things to be easy and consistent. He's not trying to become a chef or a fitness guru. He just wants something that fits into his busy life without feeling like another job. That really helped shape how I approach the design for Bento, keeping it simple, flexible, and time-saving. To understand users like Paul better, I ran a short online survey with 5 participants, all busy professionals or health-conscious users who cook at home. My goal was to find out what actually makes meal planning hard for them, not just in terms of logistics, but also emotionally. I wanted to learn why people struggle to stay consistent and what kind of support they wish these tools offered. So I asked things like how they currently plan their meals, what their biggest challenges are, and what would make the process easier or more enjoyable. From that research, a few patterns came up over and over again. First, decision fatigue. People are just tired of making decisions all day, so by the time they think about dinner, they're over it. Second, time pressure. Everyone wants to eat well, but long prep routines just don't fit into their lives. Third, simplicity matters. If an app feels like work, they'll drop it. And lastly, people respond better to visual planning. They prefer seeing their meals laid out instead of reading through lists or numbers. So from these insights, I decided to design Bento to reduce that mental load. Fewer choices, more visuals, and a flexible system that makes meal prep feel easy, not stressful. Once I understood what users needed, I started mapping out how the app would actually work from start to finish. The idea was to make the whole experience feel seamless, from planning meals to cooking them, without adding extra steps. So I broke it down into 4 simple stages: plan, prep, cook, and log. Here's how a typical flow might go. A user opens the app, goes through a quick onboarding, and lands on the home screen. From there, they can browse or select bento recipes. They can customize what goes into their bento, maybe swap out veggies or choose a different starch. And the app automatically generates a grocery list for them. Once they've shopped, they can check off items, start cooking, and even follow along with step-by-step instructions. At the end, they have the option to log their meal or plan ahead for the next week. My main goal here was to make sure every step felt connected, kind of like a smooth loop that helps people stay consistent without feeling overwhelmed. Here's a look at how one of the main screens evolved. This is the weekly meals view. On the left, I started with a really simple sketch just to map out how I wanted users to browse meals for the week. My goal here was clarity. I wanted people to see prep time, calories, and cost at a glance, without having to tap through multiple pages. I also added a drop-down so users could easily adjust portions, like if they wanted to prep 2 or 3 servings of the same meal. On the right, you can see how that idea translated into the final design. I kept the same structure but refined it visually, using meal images to make it more appetizing and adding subtle color and spacing to make it feel clean and approachable. Here's another example of how I refined one of the key interactions, the edit side screen. On the left is my original sketch, where I focused on making customization feel quick and low effort. Instead of drop-down menus or multiple taps, I went with simple one-tap selections for veggies and starches. The idea was to cut out unnecessary friction and let users make changes instantly. I also grouped ingredients into two clear categories, veggies and starches, so people could easily batch edit their meals without thinking too much. On the right, you can see how that idea carried into the final design. It's still simple and lightweight, but more polished. Clean spacing, clear hierarchy, and a bold Update Recipes button at the bottom for easy confirmation. The whole goal was to keep the customization process intuitive, fast, and satisfying, so users can make changes without breaking their flow. So here's the Let's Start Cooking screen. This was one of my favorite parts to design because it focuses on helping users feel calm and in control while cooking. On the left, you can see my early sketch. I wanted to make the steps super clear and ordered in a way that makes sense for batch cooking, like starting with rice or marinating proteins first. I also added strike-throughs to show progress as you go and highlighted one step at a time so it feels focused and not overwhelming. The idea was to make meal prep feel like a smooth flow instead of a chaotic checklist. On the right, you can see how that came to life in the final design. Each step is clean, easy to scan, and visually shows progress. The highlighted step gives you a sense of where you are in the process, kind of like a calm guide walking you through each stage. It's a small detail, but it really helps turn cooking into a mindful experience rather than just another task. Once I had my prototype ready, I tested it with a few people who matched my target users, mostly busy professionals who cook at home. Overall, the feedback was really positive. People loved the clean layout and said the cooking steps felt calming and easy to follow. One person even said, "This feels like I'm being walked through it, not managing it all myself," which is exactly what I was going for. But there were also a few things I needed to tweak. Some users weren't sure if they'd selected enough meals for the week. Others said the cooking steps could be grouped more visually, and a few people didn't notice the edit sides option right away. Based on that, I made a few key changes. I added a meal counter to show how many dishes were selected, reorganized the layout to separate categories more clearly, and restyled the Edit Sides link to look more like a button so it's easier to spot. These small updates really improved usability and made the flow feel even more intuitive. So let's walk through the prototype from Paul's perspective. He's a busy corporate lawyer who wants to plan his meals for the week using Bento. When Paul opens the app, he lands on the home screen and taps Explore this week's menu. Right away, he can see a curated list of bento meals with all the key details, calories, prep time, and price, so he can make quick, confident decisions without having to think too hard. He decides to add a few meals to his plan, but when he gets to the teriyaki chicken, he wants to make a small tweak. He prefers broccoli instead of zucchini. So he taps Edit Sides, which takes him to a simple one-tap selection screen. No drop-downs, no scrolling through endless options, just clear, categorized choices for veggies and starches. He picks broccoli, taps Update Recipe, and he's done. Now that Paul's finished choosing his meals, the app gives him a quick summary. 2 different proteins, 3 veggies, and 1 starch. It's a nice, balanced mix, and honestly, pretty appetizing. Next, Bento automatically generates a grocery list. Paul can check off items as he shops. It's simple, visual, and helps him stay organized without overbuying. Once shopping's done, it's time to cook. The app walks him through each step in order. Marinate the chicken, cook the rice, roast the veggies, with one step highlighted at a time to keep things calm and focused. Finished steps get crossed off so it's easy to see progress without any clutter or stress. The whole flow from planning to prepping is designed to make meal prep feel supportive, not overwhelming. It's structured but relaxed, and it gives Paul that feeling of control without effort. Now that Paul's done prepping and cooking, he wants to keep track of what he's actually eating. So he heads over to the log meals screen. Here, Bento keeps things really simple and stress-free. Paul can quickly see his daily calorie intake at a glance, and he has a few flexible ways to log his meals. He can add them manually, select one of his saved bento boxes from earlier in the week, or even scan a barcode if he's grabbing something quick on the go. The idea here was to make meal tracking feel approachable, not like a fitness chore. Just a calm, easy way for Paul to stay mindful of what he's eating without the extra effort. And that's the beauty of Bento. It turns something that usually feels like a chore into a mindful, easy experience. Working on Bento really reminded me how powerful simple design can be. Throughout this project, I realized that people don't just want functional tools. They want experiences that feel calm, supportive, and designed for real life. It's not about doing more, it's about feeling better while doing it. What I'm most proud of is how Bento takes something that usually feels overwhelming, like meal prep, and turns it into a guided, peaceful flow. Looking ahead, I'd love to explore adding smarter recommendations and AI-guided cooking features, maybe even connecting fitness or nutrition data to make meal prep even more personalized and effortless for users. Overall, Bento taught me a lot about designing with empathy and intention, and it's a direction I definitely want to keep building on.